Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be looking at Stinger's Silencer. Stinger is one of the best Silencer players in all of Dota right now, and I really wanted to make a video teaching you guys about how to play Silencer at a faster tempo, because this hero really does some of the most insane damage in the game in the early game. Especially considering the fact that when the enemy gets silenced, Arcane Curse does 50% bonus damage. That's what really sells me on this hero. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other benefits as well, but the amount of damage you can do with 50% bonus damage when they get silenced, the fact that it reapplies every time they cast a spell, the fact that you have a level 10 talent that buffs it up, and the fact that you can go an item build like Tango's Fairy Fire 3 Branches Circlet to really dominate the lane. Also, I want to tell you guys that if you've been struggling with solo queue and you're looking to get to the next rank, I'm going to be able to help you. Like, literally, with the Game Leap website, I'm going to give you guys guides that are going to make it unbelievably clear on what you need to do. So if you've been stuck in the solo queue grind, you don't know what to do, and you want to become absolutely broken, but like actually you want to become much better at Dota, and you want to take it more seriously, the Game Leap website is going to help you do that. So click the link down below. I'm going to help you get to the next rank, and I'll see you there. Stinger's going to be laning against a Pangolier Razor lane, a lane that is certainly weak in the early levels. So his item build kind of reflects that he knows this. He knows that they're really weak, and so he's going to skill his W and look to get to work. Right? Anytime the enemy has a low pressure lane, which you kind of just got to know if their heroes can kill you or not, then you can skill your W. Now, I will say I think he goes a little bit too far here, and generally you want to trade from next to your carry or on the left side of the lane. In terms of his following gameplay, he's definitely very aggressive. Right, he hits level 2 and he has a Fairy Fire and all this regen, so even though I will argue that I actually think he gets caught out of position here, it ends up sort of not mattering. Part of the reason he can play aggressive and potentially even overly aggressive, is because he has a Bloodseeker, a hero that really punishes overextension from the enemy. Because when enemies overextend, when the Razor and the Pangolier goes on the Silencer, they get low and the Bloodseeker can punish. From there, you're primarily looking for opportunities to hit 2-man Arcane Curses. For instance here, he obviously is trying to clip them both. Unfortunately, the spell got nerfed recently, so it did not hit. Old Arcane Curse definitely would have hit 2 there, but either way, he gets good damage on the Pango, and because of the fact that Razor's so low, Bloodseeker gets first blood. From there, I would like to say that Stinger buys a crazy amount of regen, shipping out a Clarity, his third set of Tangos, I think that's his second Clarity, second Mango, third set of Tangos. He has a stick, obviously just completely doubling down on regen. And it's important to do this when you know the enemy lane is like a little weak, right? Especially when you're laning with something like Troll or Bloodseeker, one of these stronger laners, even something like PA, if the matchup's easy. You can get really aggressive by just spamming out your nukes. And so if you don't buy regen, you're kind of missing the whole advantage of your hero because, right, this Bloodseeker doesn't even have to extend for this kill. Looks like he might end up getting it. He doesn't even have to do that, right? In fact, I guess it's fine for Bloodseeker because this hero just fully heals after it gets a kill, right, from the creep wave. But for a lot of heroes, it's just about pushing them off the creep wave, making them be able to get no last hits, and then going back to pulling. And so while a lot of supports will rotate out of lane, I really like how Stinger plays this match. He actually prioritizes dominating the Razor. And I think rotating and contesting mid runes is important. However, this game he has a lone druid mid, so there's really no need for him to head to the mid lane and contest the runes. It's just pointless. Instead, he can put a priority on shutting down Razor, who, as I mentioned before, is a hero that needs to do well in the lane. I think part of the reason Razor has like the highest win rate in Dota across all pubs, not in high MMR. Razor is actually not picked very much in high MMR. The reason why he has such a high win rate in like your average pub is because of the fact that he just doesn't get pressured, right? His laning stage, he gets away with his pretty weak laning stage. And that might sound insane to some people, like, how does Razor have a weak laning stage? It's because he doesn't do well with synergy. This hero does well when you don't go on him at the same time. However, you could see that the Silencer and the Bloodseeker are just spamming this Razor with nukes together, and that is how you punish this Razor hero. So instead of putting some sort of emphasis on contesting runes, he stacks the small camp, and will continue to nuke out this Razor. Put some pressure on him here. I don't think they do kill him here. Just from full HP, they just nuke him to death. And what's really crazy is how much the E does at level 1. It's 120 base damage. 120 base damage. And then it also does extra damage based on your in. So let's say he has 43 in right now, it does an extra 43 damage. At level 1, it does 163 damage at his current point, at his current level. I mean, that's just insane, and it silences. And what's important to note about the silence is that silence, that 3-second silence duration, makes the Arcane Curse do more damage. So you just pump damage as he has a triple stack? Okay, you definitely don't need to try to triple stack the small camp. It's actually kind of risky because the enemy can commit resources to killing it and take the gold. If it works out, if it doesn't get contested, well, then you're going to deny every creep wave instantly, so kind of just depends. I would imagine maybe Pango and Razor try to kill it here. Yeah, that's why it's a bit risky. I wouldn't recommend the triple stack. Double is typically enough. But yeah, Razor's pretty bad against Bloodseeker as the lane goes along. Razor tends to actually be okay against Bloodseeker in the early levels. However, not with Silencer, just spamming him with nukes. And with the Rupture coming out, they're able to take down the Razor, and now Razor's really poor and Bloodseeker's very rich. Now, once you've had this good of a start because you've followed some laning advice, all you gotta do is get aggressive. Honestly, you take whatever fight is available. And it doesn't really matter if you die, and it certainly doesn't matter if you have global. This hero is not really built around global in the early game. Arcane Curse just does way too much damage and is way too obnoxious. It's a slow, high damage spell. If you cast spells while you're affected by it, you get even more slowed. He even seems to be looking to pull here. If the Razor didn't come back to lane, it looks like, yeah, so he's pulling. 11 minutes in, he's doing whatever he can to make sure that this very mid-game oriented Razor cannot get to his timings, can't get to a reliable shard, can't get to a reliable bloodstone. And so yeah, these pulls are just so annoying. As he gets gone on here, can he get his Q off? Yeah, he does. And he hits 2 with the Q, and that could be good enough, right? This Razor now, if he wants to disengage with Plasma Field, has to run the risk of reapplying the Arcane Curse. Like for instance, right here, this Razor wants to cast his Q, but he's like, I'm gonna, like, oh, and he does it. He panics. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna get hit. I just might as well get it off. But now the Arcane Curse reapplies for 2 seconds, dealing another 80 damage, and he goes down. In these early game fights, you just can't, like these heroes that rely on their nukes, their low cooldown nukes to fight, get completely destroyed. From there, he actually TP's top. I think this is because there's a full creep wave pushing in and no one was going to farm it. Typically, I wouldn't recommend actually doing this. I definitely think it's like kind of a bad idea. However, oh, look at this awareness. TPing top, understanding a fight could happen on the bottom side, tells his Bloodseeker to TP out, very likely synergizing that, and that's one of the coolest plays you can make on Silencer at any point in the game, unless the enemy has Greaves or something like that, or BKB. In the early game, you can tell your team, I can global, you can TP. That's exactly what they do there, and they get the job done. Bloodseeker gets out. Now he actually walks mid and just casually nukes to Tusk, and I really like this because a lot of people think like, oh, I gotta hide my positioning. You kind of don't. Like on Silencer, because you don't have a stun and you don't have some like major slow, like it's not like concussive shot levels of slow, for instance, right, Skywrath, you can kind of just nuke people so that when a fight breaks out, they're low. Like this Tusk, he has to now pop a salve, which if he didn't have it, he'd just be stuck at 2/3 of his health. This next upcoming sequence from Stinger is really cool. So he actually gets a little bit of vision of a Pango and decides to Arcane Curse just global it. Which by the way does a ton of damage because when you global for that 4.5 seconds, they actually take the 50% bonus damage from Arcane Curse. So instead of doing 40 damage a second, it does 60 damage per second. It also gives a 50% increase to the slow. So instead of 25% slow, it's 37.5% slow. Obviously a very notable increase, something you definitely cannot scoff at. And so he just goes for the solo kill on the support Pango. I'm not sure how much I recommend that. I think that play of Arcane Curse and a global on like cores is very high skill, right? That extra bit of damage, extra bit of slow, extremely no. Just the fact that they can't cast their spells, of course, is great too, but everything comes together. From there, he sees a fight happening bottom, and he's able to really react properly. Anytime you get gone on, your initial reaction in the mid to late game actually should often be your last word if possible. The reason why is because it actually silences them, so it's your better defensive ability. Arcane Curse, it's okay, but it doesn't keep you alive typically when you're getting jumped, so it can be a second priority unless it's like the super early game, you know what I mean? 8-9 minutes in, you want to prioritize Arcane Curse just because the damage is a lot more significant and matters definitely a bit more. As now he's going to get his Q off onto the Razor. As I said, it's all about just getting your spells out. He gets a couple of hits in, but definitely kites out, and I like that. I think a lot of players would just continue to run forward and auto-attack the Razor. In fact, I guarantee if you put any 3K support, they would have just YOLO forward and tried to hit the Razor. This would obviously leave them susceptible to the respawning Pango, a Tusk rotation, Lifestealer even. He would just probably die. And so it's great that he kites out, waiting for his Q, waiting for his E. He's looking for a back angle on this Razor. He's trying to snipe him now. Oh, he couldn't get him. The Arcane Curse, maybe Bloodseeker could chase him down. Kind of baits in the Pango, and Razor died. To what? Did he just get sniped? Oh, he got sniped by Wind Ranger, didn't he? Oh, he got sniped. Very nice. So for his first item, he actually picks up a Veil of Discord, which I definitely like with his team because they have a pretty significant amount of magical damage. Even Bloodseeker as a carry does pretty significant magic damage with his Maelstrom. So from there, he's typically just going to be paying attention to the map and protecting a teammate. Right, Global Silence is one of those spells that requires you to be very aware. For instance, he looks bottom here and sees if he needs to global for the TP. And instantly, when his lone druid gets jumped in the triangle, he's so fast. I mean, Stinger is so freaking fast to global here. Like, incredibly fast. Now, he didn't want to get hit by the Pango stun, so he kites out, but then he turns, hits an E onto the Tusk, an Arcane Curse, and then kites out. It's really perfect. It's just a beautiful reaction. A lot of players take too long on the E, on the Q, they don't kite out when necessary, they kind of just like YOLO in and are clunky on their spells, and that's going to cause you to lose a lot of MMR because maybe the lone druid dies a little bit faster. He ends up going down anyway, but it buys a lot of time, and it does very good damage to the Tusk and the Storm, and both of those heroes, no, I'm sorry, the Storm doesn't end up falling, but the Tusk dies, the Razor tries to save them, and he dies as well. One more thing that Stinger does a little bit this game is drags waves. He actually clears quite a bit of waves with Arcane Curse, so it's definitely something you can do ever since they gave initial damage, 100 initial damage at level 4 to Arcane Curse. You can actually clear waves, and it's definitely a good thing to do. In terms of his next itemization, it's going to be a ton of sentries, a ton of wards, but more importantly, I love the People's Gift. I think a lot of support players don't put an emphasis on People's Gift when they certainly should. It's 15 secondary stats, so if you're an int hero like Silencer, this is actually best case scenario. Because of two reasons. It gives you 300 HP, which is a ton, and it gives you 2 armor, which makes you pretty tanky to right clicks. You know, it's definitely something. And it's also 15 attack speed, which for Silencer is not useless with Glaives of Wisdom. But yeah, most importantly, he's just very survivable, very tanky, and he can bait very well. He also picked up a Ghost Scepter, which is particularly fantastic this game. The enemy team has physical damage in the Tusk, Razor, but most importantly, Storm and Lifestealer. Lifestealer can jump him with the Tusk, and so if he ever sees them coming, he can get off the Ghost Scepter and buy a lot of time. As we'll see here, he pops it, preventing Storm from finishing him off. Unfortunately, he ends up going down anyway because they have a lot of chase, but he gets off another round of his Q. And he's just keeping the enemy team very, very low. Once you hit level 15, Silencer becomes a much better hero. The hero goes from pretty long cooldown global to just like not long at all. 25 seconds off of global silence is just insane. It's straight up insane. It's so much. It brings global all the way down. Well, it's usually to 75 seconds, but he has the Quickening Charm. So with Quickening Charm down to a 67.5 second cooldown, right? That's insane. It's literally nothing. And we'll see in this fight here, he's pretty happy to just global, even though he maybe didn't need it. Right, there's no reason for him not to. I mean, obviously there is, you know, potentially another fight breaks out in the 67.5 seconds, but it's unlikely, right? So he can just kind of go for a nice global to chase. He sees the Storm getting gone on, global to follow it up, just in case the Fear doesn't come out, right? Playing it safe, and they get the kill. And this spell, even though he's not level 18, so the cooldown is actually currently 81 with the Quickening Charm, it's still very, very damn low. As now they're going to go for Roshan, so he wards the high ground. Please, if you're a support player, ward the high ground! Please ward the high ground. I wonder if he's going to take the shard. It's pretty good on Silencer. It gives you, anytime you get a kill, it actually gives you 4 int instead of 2 when you finish a kill. And then for every consecutive 4 auto attacks on someone with glaives, you silence them for 1.75 seconds. It's not bad. All right, they go in, Q, E, into the Veil, increasing all the magic damage. And now he can look for some autos. Typically you wouldn't want to, especially if the enemy team is all alive. But he kind of knows Lifestealer's disengaging, Pango's disengaging. He can try to sneak some autos. He also goes for a very deep Observer Ward here, trying to set his team up for a deep jump. And it's always great anytime you get map control that you try to get down a deep ward, because deep wards are typically going to have the most impact, especially during the nighttime. They're going to allow you to get that key pick off in the game. As he still has shard, gives it to Wind Ranger. Okay, that makes sense. As he goes for another global, but they don't want to commit on the Tusk. Unfortunately, global gets wasted there. But as I said, the cooldown's just not that bad. And in this team fight, we're just going to see some really bad positioning from Razor. At this point, as the position 5 Silencer with global on cooldown, I can't really say you do too much. You know, like you pop the Veil, you pop your Q, you pop your E, you try to hit as many heroes as possible with your Q, and you play the outside of the fight. Look to get multiple rounds of spells off. I always emphasize this when I'm like coaching supports, but get multiple rounds of spells off. Unfortunately, this guy has a nullifier on Lifestealer, so he gets purged and goes down, but at least the Lifestealer went on him and not his teammates. And yeah, that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully I taught you guys a couple of things about Silencer. I definitely wanted to just give an overview of what I thought was strong about this hero, because it's honestly one of the highest win rate heroes in Dota right now. It currently has a 54% win rate on Dota buff, making it a top 5 hero in terms of win rate. It's up there with the Bloodstone Shard Razor that everyone seems to lose to. It's really funny, I've coached a couple of teams recently, a couple of leagues in the 3k, 4k MMR bracket, where they do Captain's Mode, 2 to 4k MMR. and like Razor is just first phase pick ban all the time. It's really funny. But alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!